It is real. It is real. This is how this started. You and I clearly have been with each other for a very long time because we're very comfortable with the conversation. And I will say, as a not expected intro, because we did the expected intro something like 45 minutes ago. The real intro is, hi guys.
Guys.
So Carrie and I, we had a conversation last night, and we come up with this idea, and the result of the idea is what we're right now recording. What I need to preface this with is we did spend the last 45 minutes recording or thinking we were recording. We are actually amateurs.
Talking to each other.
We are amateurs, and I apologize because we actually had some really good conversations going on. We did. But we're going to reset that, and with all that, I think this informal initial start to something that may or may not actually ever get to anybody else's eyes is quite interesting. So, so Carrie, what the hell are we doing? Why are we having it? Why are we talking right now? Because
why are we talking about it a second time?
I'm going to check right now, and it says pause, stop recording in the sense that it is still recording. So I hope that I have not.
I see the recording button.
You do see the recording button. So I think we're good. We confirmed this is actually being recorded. So feel comfortable to not feel like it's a dress rehearsal.
Yeah, so that was a great conversation, and we always have great conversations, Stephen. And yeah, one of those conversations was last night, and it involved a decent amount of wine and
some rum. I had rum.
You had rum.
I had rum.
I had my wine. And it involved Doctor Who and Stephen Colbert for a late show. And by
the way, Colbert, I'm just gonna tell you right now, anytime that you're ready, dinner party, full on. We fully welcome you.
You and your absolutely adorable wife. Oh, we'll enjoy our wine together.
All right, so continue though, because it was
so yeah. Night. So I guess we were just talking about, and I was saying that I need to get back on track. I haven't been feeling great. I'm almost on a 1,000 day streak of meditation. They're usually 3 to 5 minute meditations that I do throughout the day, but health wise, I need to get back into my workouts, and my knees hurt. I put on weight, and who wants to put on? I mean, obviously with COVID, but it's not an excuse, right? So I need to feel better. And we were both basically talking about being more mindful and working on things that help with our self-growth and in some ways selfishness. I mean, this is I guess the idea was hatched for 45 minutes every day that we work on ourselves.
Well, right. So it was really, in the conversations, we talk obviously a lot, but the idea of, there's a lot of times the conversation is, hey, I'm trying to do this, or I really, this is really important to me. But ultimately there's reasons why we don't do that. So I think part of the genesis of this was like, ultimately, if we want to get out of this cycle of talking about what we would like to do or should do and why it is or isn't happening, I think we need to actually focus on, coming up with some kind of framework, some kind of way of holding each other accountable for living up to things that we say we want to do, say that we are actually committed to actually being better on. And so with that, that's where this idea is basically is, kind of simple, but it's like why can't we come up with a period of time that we find is reasonable and negotiable in our lifespan or in our life cycle, that we put to a purpose and that we commit to a purpose, and that purpose has some loose boundaries, and we kind of had to negotiate on what the loose boundaries were, but for the most part it was that time frame, which we discussed was 45 minutes, was to be put to something that is either feeding the mind, feeding the soul, or feeding the body. And I think that is actually part of the pillars of it. And so, it could be reading a book, reading a book that is in a certain focus. It could be exercise, it can be meditation, and it could potentially be even, some cathartic exercise into, like a skill set or something you do, or frankly, I think that's still qualifies. But the main idea is that we look for that time, and then right now how what we're doing right here is to explore the side of that is how do we spend that time. And I think the other side that we talked about that is really important is that life happens, and what happens if you can't find the 45 minutes. And I think the only requirement there is like there's not a judgment zone, but we need to talk about what was it that was a barrier, and just be willing to explore that, because ultimately whether or not we can find 45 minutes in a given day to commit to self-improvement, and if that's not possible, it might need some evaluation, because ultimately that's not asking that much. That's actually a very marginal amount of time, I think, to put to a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree. And I do. I think, it's nice 45 minutes of our self-growth and 15 minutes of
Reflection. Yeah.
reflection and
Discussion.
accountability
Yeah.
discussion that we will, likely share, and we'll see. And, we can
We're recording it. Right now, we're recording it. And, who knows where it goes. But at the end of the day, it felt like this was one of those things, like, if we're going to do it, we need to actually, let's go ahead and record it. Why not? It doesn't make sense
Yeah.
not to. It's kind of fun. And it is actually really fun talking to my wife, who is like literally 9 feet away from me. But, we're doing it whole podcast style. We've got our little labs, that's what's going on. So
my lab is known as our dining room table with
Yeah.
my giant fork and spoon.
I'm in the hallway upstairs, corridor or landing. So similar.
Yeah, we
It's, I
still
think
have to
that-
do something about this horrible light. We're gonna work on that.
Hey,
Maybe we'll see progressions during the during the recording.
look, we have been this place has been a work in progress this entire year. So yeah, everything evolves, and I'm pretty sure who knows what will change. So look for changes in scenery. Look for I'm sure that's going to be entertaining to somebody.
If they could only see my desk with all my Grogu's, which I mean, I've got this guy there, but I've got 1, 2, 3 of them on my desk, along with a baby Groot and a couple of Forkies.
Honey, I think in all this, I don't think we actually introduced ourselves, because I think we did it the first time, but we weren't recording
that in the notes.
Again, it's notes, but before we go, because I think right now we've introduced the concept. I don't know if it's better or worse than the previous version. It doesn't really matter, but we can probably go to the conclusion. So I would say, hey, we introduce ourselves. Is that appropriate?
You're Steven.
Steven the dude. Yeah.
I'm Carrie, and we've been together as of May 5th. Will be our 20-year anniversary, and October 5th will be our 19-year anniversary.
So a couple of decades, enough time to clearly like each other. I think it's appropriate now. Is that too soon? Is that too early? I mean, I don't want to be forward on this. I mean, I know,
Yeah, I like you.
All right. I like you too. I'm gonna like check the box. Do you like me? Yes or no? We can pass those notes. I don't know. Swipe right shit. That's it.
Did you say there's a pause button for you? I didn't even realize there was a pause button for recording there.
There probably is, but it might freak people out. We did that because it might be like.
Well, you could just keep talking, because we did this whole thing before, and now I'm out of wine.
So that's true. Actually, I will say, let's actually do a quick brief moment. We've done an introduction. We can pretend this is studio style. We're going to pause for a second, but our thing is, when we come back, we will continue. YouTube can commercials.
You may or may not realize there was even a pause, so we could.
And there may or may not be changes to backgrounds. Who knows? So stay tuned. Stay tuned because you don't know what's going to happen. We're going to pause this.
Part of that self-growth is me going to sleep at a normal time, and it's almost midnight.
Yeah, we'll get there. We're going to work on progress tonight. All right, pause it. Maybe. All right, so now we are back.
We're back.
We will get better at this. I promise. We will get better at this.
I'm reminding people to mask up, and you're wearing your awesome. Everything is awesome.
Everything is awesome. Yes. Yeah. Go nerd.
With my little COVID. Yeah. Shout out to the nerd herd for the that was what's that called? TKO.
Yeah.
Yeah. I drew
early
that.
Pandemic. Mm-hmm. Early times, back in the good old days. You know, we actually thought it was going to end at Easter. Well, some people said it was going to. I'm just saying, you know, good days.
Not going to that.
No, not at all. Never. That is not what this is about. I'm just saying the good old days. The good old days.
So I guess we are at the time when we hold each other accountable for what we did today.
Oh, yeah, that's what this is about. So I guess we start. You mind getting kicked off because I'm still trying to take my notes on what I did. I'm still working on that. You know, accounting.
I'll do it. Let's see. So I because the health piece of it is so big for me, and I am actively meditating, but I wanted to bump that up a little bit. So I decided with the workouts, I would go back to the ones that I'm a big beach body lover. I have a couple of great coaches that I've worked with over the years, and yeah, so I picked one that's more of a beginner. They're all 30 minutes. It's called Clean Week, and the first day is core. So I did my 30 minutes, and it was great. You know, I used my Apple Watch, and I closed all my rings, which I typically do. I don't think I've had a month-long streak during COVID that I can remember, but I can look back. But
times, but sure.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah. So I did my 30 minutes, felt good. Knees hurt. I do some adjusting for that. Squats, sumo squats, things like that. I'm just more cautious on lunges and everything to just be nice on my knees. But 30 minutes done on that. And then I sat exactly where I'm sitting right now, put my AirPods in, and I decided I would start on, I love my Calm app. And I decided I'd start on a series. Normally my meditations are 3 to 5 minutes. They're either at bedtime, and it's the relax before bedtime, where you basically tighten and release muscles along with deep breathing, which is great before bed. I can't say enough great things about that. Plus they do have a nighttime one where Matthew McConaughey will read you meditations, which is quite calming. Megan and I like that one. And yeah, so I decided I'd start a series, and the series is on breaking habits. And the first one happened to be cravings. And it was just it was really honestly just the kind of thing where it's about 6 minutes of breathing and then 6 minutes of a guided meditation about cravings and how mindfulness really helps with that. I thought there was a great quote that was included in the meditation that was, mindfulness gives you time gives you choices skillfully made lead to freedom. And that, that was, it's really true that, a lot of people are like, I don't have time to meditate, or I can't meditate, I can't shut my mind down. It has nothing to do with that, and everybody makes time for what they value. And mindfulness, actually, the time that you invest in it, to me, comes back tenfold. So I'm a big believer that that you really being able to, um, kind of really sit with your thoughts, and you don't dwell on them. You don't latch on to them because you are, breathing, and it's a calming sensation. So that was basically 12 minutes, and then along with some journaling and things like that. So the journaling that I do right now is a little bit more, since I'm getting back into health, and I've got to drop this weight off. I have an entire inspiration folder now in my phone of pictures from 2014 of when I had hit my low point, and it was they're they're pretty inspiring for me. So I am logging what I'm eating right now and drinking, and I do a little journaling in that at the end of the day, just kind of what workouts I did, how I felt, if I was doing intermittent fasting, the kind of hours that I was eating, and just to kind of, again, be more mindful of my eating, because that too gets away from you. And even though we did decide to have Triple J's Detroit style pizza tonight, I will say
Earned. It was earned.
it was earned.
It was
And
earned.
again, one piece with salad,
Right.
it's good.
Yeah.
And it also is good leftovers. And then I have the, I meal prep, back to meal prepping. So lots of instant pots and zucchini lasagna and stuff that honestly, so, it was a good day. I felt mentally, I feel really good. I feel committed on this first day of our 45-minute promise.
All right. So, I in all full transparency, I will say I love everything, and I'm not necessarily feeling I know I need to learn from your example, because I will say for the most part, a couple things contributed to this day, because I did live up to the promise, or at least I will say that I made sure I lived up to the spirit of the promise. But I can't quite say I got the exact 45 minutes. And there's a combination of reasons of why. I think those are also important to explore as well, because, that's what we said last night. Can't guarantee, even though it seems crazy that maybe you can't find 45 minutes, but there could be reasons. And I think, exploring that is important. So, the first reason I had is I actually forgot about it for the first few hours of the day. And it's excusable. It's okay. It wasn't completely lack of memory. It was that I did have an interview that was coming up in the morning, and I did have a lot of things were going on. And when I woke up, and my thoughts were all about some of the opportunities that were going on. I was dreaming about that. I was thinking about that, and I was consumed of it. And it was actually only about an hour and a half after I got through the interview that my brain suddenly thought about it. I was like, holy crap! Wait a minute. Didn't we talk about this idea last night? Didn't we shake hands? And I remember I actually talked to you about it at the point. It's like, all right, I remember the discussion. I am late to the game. So ultimately, the great thing about it though is I did find the time, and I know I needed to find time. There's a lot of things that I think are important of what I want to do inside the 45 minutes I get from each day, and it does include one of the things that has been the hardest thing for me to actually reclaim, and that's reading. And quite frankly, it's like my early childhood, so much of my being, especially in the development phases, was based on reading and actually taking that time. And I've lost that. I've lost that for decades, because not necessarily that I was anti-reading. It's just that my lifestyle and things that were going on, that just disappeared. I stopped doing that, and I truly missed it. And I think ultimately, going back to one of our one and only getaways that we did during COVID, or have done because it's still going on, was that beach trip we took, where we had we did it all safe. It was like basically we just changed our quarantine from the loft in Atlanta to a beachhead. But the main thing of that week, and this is almost like call back to why we're doing this right now, is that week we gave ourselves the right, the privilege, and the responsibility to read, to focus, to meditate, to go back and actually try to reflect. And I think about that. I read at least, I think, 2.5 books. I didn't read. I still didn't reclaim my earlier youthful reading speed. But even the fact that a couple of books I read, it's like my perspective got enriched, and there's a lot of things that happen. So that is my. I will say, kind of going forward, there's more that's going to come in. What I did manage to get into was, two broken meditations. There was about a 7.5 minute meditation that was mainly broken because I got a text message in the middle of it, and there was a time frame with meeting up and talking to a few people, and I was like, okay, I will pause the meditation. But I came back and I did spend another 25 minutes of meditation later on, which overall, I do meditate most days. I will say I don't necessarily log it. I haven't been doing that, but I generally do. But this was much more of a purposeful moment of meditation. And I think given, the complex amount of just situational changes, choices, and opportunities going around me, I had that 20 minutes felt like almost an eternity that I was able to sit there and pull, where my brain's at, calm it down, think through it, and actually just almost honestly just look at it and actually just absorb the reality of what is, and give that introspection and thought to it. So while I may have not truly been able to get 45 minutes, even the 25 to 30 minutes I think is genuine in the promise that I qualified for was incredibly valuable. And ultimately, it was good. I know, hey, this is day one. I want to keep it going. It's worth the challenge. I like the idea. I love the idea that even though I forgot about it, I remembered how important it was, and it was important enough that I fought for it. I still fought for that time frame.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's huge. Plus, I think both of us are going through a lot with career changes, and, path changes and everything else. We're both rocks for each other. And I think that a lot of what you mentally went through this morning preparing for the interview too was a lot of that, right? Like that's still self-growth. And it's, there are things that you went through to prepare for that I would say qualify. So I do think you hit the 45 minutes, but I
appreciate the praise.
I do also think that, what's nice in in the reading aspect, we also have added a remarkable number of books to our library during COVID. And I have read some of them, but not all of them. I mean, we have Barack and Michelle Obama's books. And again, the ones that we took to the beach were a lot of, like, we have Karita's books, and a lot of Black Lives Matter and just empowering books on cultural diversity that I think are, again, we actually added an amazing number of self-reflective, self-growth books to our library. So I think we're setting ourselves up well for that. Because I too, I mean, I when I read, it does tend to be a mixture of either crime, thriller, or detectives, and mainly female detectives because they're the best. And then ones that are for growth, whether it's business growth or film and tourism. I want to work on my own book surrounding Georgia film. And so because of that, it's important for me to also look at others. But yeah, and from a journaling aspect, I kind of think, while I do want to journal more, this is journaling. What we're doing right here. Yeah, basically we have the 45 minutes that we are doing the self-growth and reflection. And then we have 15 minutes that each day. So that's what'd you say? It's 1/24 of our day
exactly
is going to be on doing it and
talking about it
and and then ideally sharing it. So each one will typically be 15 minutes. This one will be about double because we're also doing an introduction, versus the next ones will predominantly just be accountability check-ins.
That should be the thing. And I think I hope, because it still shows it's being recorded, that this time our recanting is public. But if not, third time's the charm, right?
Right? I mean, we may actually get so good that we can actually just stream it live to like YouTube and
Actually, I have no problem with that. I mean, there's at the end of the day, this is I'm just saying right now, this is nothing to anything. We're not. This is just having fun.
is just having fun.
But it is to a purpose, and I think at the end of the day, that we have so many of these conversations. We've had it for decades of just together, and I personally I feel like much of my life has had moments where these are the conversations that we have, but it's really about just what it is to be human, what it is to
Mhm.
experience, and to a large degree, regardless of what you do, where you're at, and whatever's going on, there are a handful of things that you can do that genuinely help you maintain sanity in the worst of situations. And clearly, all got to experience some really crazy stuff. Even if this year was your first experience, I promise you, this is up there for all of us. But ultimately, the idea of what are the things that help you deal with that, but also help you find ways forward. And a lot of that is the ability to pull back, to focus, to meditate, to put time into yourself, put the time into the energy you have, and realizing that any effort you do on a consistent basis to that helps to drive the needle in the direction you want to go. And it doesn't happen overnight, but I am really going to be curious to see, attitudes, focus, and all the old variations that we go through every day, and how this commitment will apply to that. Because maybe we should have done a year of I don't give a shit about anything, and I just like don't do anything at all, and we record what every day looks like then, but to compare with. But ultimately, I will say right now, we're both coming out of one of the most bizarre, most strange, and I'm saying this from personal to every level, years we've ever seen. You and I have been through some crazy stuff. We've seen a lot of crazy stuff. We've had a lot of crazy, but this last year has had just this weird extra sprinkle on everything. So coming out of that year, we're also going into a new year with opportunities to essentially reset, repurpose, and refocus. And I think that's the interesting about the commitment that we're having is like, hey, right now we have opportunities to essentially turn it off and turn it back on again. And as we turn it off and turn it back on again, and it's rebooting, and we're actually thinking about, okay, if we start moving back in, how do we want to make it better than it was? And that I think is what this is about, is that we were living just fine before. But I think by taking that moment to give ourselves the right opportunity and the right, vantage point to explore and grow, where we come out of this will get us to a better place than we were before. And that ultimately is what I'm hoping to do, because it's been a hell of a journey. And I'm glad you have shared it with me. And I'm looking forward to the next, maybe it's 45 days, maybe it's like 45 years. Hey, I'm up for both.
I agree. I agree, Stephen. I think, I mean, I couldn't have said it better. I do think, we both are going through a lot of changes right now, and this is just, again, I mean, I'm already not necessarily hitting one of my goals in this, and that I do want to start getting back to a more normal sleep schedule, because I personally am a morning workout person. I think whether it's oxytocin or whatever, the adrenaline and everything that is, the serotonin, all this stuff that Jillian Michaels and everybody talks about, it's all, when that's released in the morning, it lasts through the day. So I get that. I get that hit in the morning from workouts, that I know if I can get back to that my commitment level, just when I did P90X3 back in 2019, that really got me where I wanted to be. It was because of that. I mean, my workouts weren't crazy. P90X3 was still, you know, it's still a 30-minute, I believe. It's not, there's nothing crazy about it, but you know, it makes me feel good every day. And if I can get back to a normal sleep schedule, that means I get back to just this more normality. And when I don't necessarily have that day-to-day job, and even my schedule before with Atlanta movie tours, it was not. I mean, people were like, "Oh, it's the weekend." I'm like, "What the hell's a weekend?" I'm like, you know, it's
I think
like,
we've known what a weekend is for a very long time, honey. We've been in this cycle for a while, and I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent. It is good, bad, or indifferent. It doesn't really matter. At the end of
yeah,
the day, it ultimately boils down to it's like you know, time and energy. I think that maybe is part of the thing because we're maybe even the poster children of what happens when entrepreneurs are left unchanged. We decided collectively as a couple that we were not we were going to have kids. That was one of our initial thoughts in general. It's like it's not nothing wrong. We love, but that was part of our decision. And it's like when that happened, I think we actually gave ourselves a license to like just go crazy with it, whatever you want to dream with. And I'm not discouraged in that because I actually love the entrepreneurial spirit. I love a lot of what it is, but I do think there's a degree of that. You know, you have to check yourself, and that's ultimately what I think. What we've kind of maybe tried to discuss or look at or evaluate here is that the idea is like your spirit of doing what you do is very important, but you need to find some way to carve out some point, and you make sure
mhm.
you commit to that, and that's the real thing. And so I kind of say again, this may be a repeat because to some of you that were watching the beginning, yeah, we had a little fuck up before, but I think this is where the 45 minutes happened because if I told you that we need to commit to 90 minutes, I'm pretty sure you would have said hell no because there ain't no way you can find 90 minutes. But I do think we can still find 45. I think that's still legitimate. I think 45 minutes exist, and if we can't, let's talk about why. Just like I did today. I
No,
lost 15.
personally, I love the 45, and I love the 45 for one very clear reason. I like 30-minute workouts. I think 30-minute workouts are effective. I think that you can adjust your workouts to be a mixture of different things on different days. I think you can get done if you can do 30-minute workouts every day. Look, that's it. That means that I've got 15 other minutes, which I may read for an hour. Great, then I did an hour and a half. But the 30 minutes is locked in. The meditation, there is going to be some level of meditation. Some days it may be 12 to 15 minutes. Some days it may be 3 or 4. And then I can add in reading and journaling and things like that. But no, I think this is great. And I also, I'd love to empower other people to do it. I think the 45-minute promise, I think it's a great thing. And you could, I mean, we could have people make the promise to us, like all of our adoring fans.
You may be pushing it too far because
I know.
I know I've got a strong 150, 200 followers. I don't know. I mean, I know my influence is great. I get that. I get I get you're tempted by the gravity of the couple hundred people that I may or may not have on Instagram last time I checked. But despite that, the reality is like to me, this is something that means something to me. It means something
Yeah,
to you. This is,
this is our
I
commitment to
I,
each
I,
other.
I like making
This
a
is
joke
where
about it,
we
and
decided. Yeah, we decided to record it to further the accountability.
and ultimately it is true. I think it's I know it's a good idea, and so yeah, if somebody else reads it and somebody else sees this and looks at it and thinks about it, it warms my heart. I think it's a good thing, but ultimately we are just two people who shook hands on a crazy idea, and we are stubborn enough. We're stubborn enough together to hold up to. We're going to do it, goddamn it! So
Yeah.
at least for a month, and I suspect that we won't regret it.
I
So
don't think we will. And I think that's great. I look, I think that's a wrap.
I think it's a wrap. So hopefully I know how to stop this, and then we will see if the video recorded. all of y'all, thank you for paying attention. Hopefully you won't have to hear like version 3 of this because it's gonna be much weirder.
Oh boy.
All right. Good night, everybody. Good night.